kind of deconstruction of Sadia Khan, what I mean by that is taking a look at kind of like the psychological profile of Sadia Khan, and maybe also of other people, maybe including even me, and or other, famous people, and look at, the spiritual aspect of life. The interesting thing is that everything that happens in life happens for a certain purpose, it seems. And it often has to do with, this purpose also often has to do with self-reflection. And so when something big happens, for example, that, you become famous, but then you end up in some disaster situation or something, it usually has to do with, hey there, I was just watching Catwoman on ITV when I saw that you were alive, so I instantly jumped on. It's great to see you again, by the way. Okay, thank you for joining in. So basically, when something big happens in your life, it usually wants to show you something, right? And you can either refuse to look at it or you can learn from it. And usually when you refuse to look at it, then there is a tendency that it will resurface at some other point in time. And it will keep resurfacing. And usually the exact same problem resurfaces. Happens a lot of times. Until you literally learn from the problem. I give you one example which is very common. Is that unless you learn to say no to a certain thing, and very like a decisive hardliner no to a certain problem in life, then for as long until you learn to say no to something very decisively, then usually it will be repeated in some form of fashion, this kind of like the attempt to intrude into your energetic field. So you, for example, have, it's like with a good example is with children. So unless you learn to say no to children in certain situations, they will keep on testing and intruding more and more into your kind of like personal space. Unless you say, okay, this is where we draw the line. You're not supposed to do this. Like, behave, for example. So this is the way it works also on a spiritual level. So unless you learn to say no to certain situations and people, for example, self-love, right? For example, let's say someone tells you, oh, come on, let's go out, okay? But you don't feel like going out, but you still go out and you keep repeating it, and you find out that it's actually not working for you. So unless you learn to say no, then you cannot open the door or the space for something else to happen. And I always say this is something a lot of people don't understand, that once you learn to say no to a certain thing that doesn't vibe with you, that it's not congruent with you, then you open up the space for something else that is congruent with you. And that thing that you do instead of the other thing, basically the kind of like opportunity cost of doing one thing and missing the other thing. But once you make the decision for your higher vibration, for your higher frequency, then you start to enter into a new reality, you could say. It's a little bit like when Bashar says, follow your highest excitement, because you, by choosing your highest excitement, move into a different realm, into a different universe in which you learned to follow your highest excitement, and thereby you get a different kind of experience in the universe. So basically, so when somebody like Sadia Khan has this experience, she needs to learn from this experience. And if she doesn't learn from this experience, it's going to stay the same or it's going to get worse. Because actually the way she is and the blockages that she has, and now that the situation has surfaced on how she really is, she will have to, if she doesn't want to change, she will have to hide, because she will not be able. I mean this 100%. She needs to go into therapy. She seriously needs to go into therapy, because otherwise it will just get worse, and it will become ever more clear that she's not fit to do this kind of work and to be a role model for anyone. And this is an interesting thing. Like, if you look at your life or somebody else's life like her, and certain things happen, is how do you react to it on a spiritual level, like where it makes a lot of sense on a spiritual level. And for most people, in most situations, this happens because you're supposed to learn something, and you should actually be grateful for what is happening. And you know what the best reaction is for everything that happens in life when you're not sure on how to react on it? Is let it go. The more you can let it go, the better. So for her, the best thing right now would be completely letting go the idea of being Sadia Khan, the psychologist, or the coach, or the teacher, or being online even much. And I would just, in her case, I would just put out a video, and I would say, listen, I'm sorry about what I did. I know I have some issues that I need to resolve. I'm going to go away on therapy for now and reflect on who I am and how I do these things. And she would completely redeem herself. And most people would understand, give her the space, and so forth. But that's the real spiritual letting go. That's when you understand that you hit a brick wall, and you need to fix it, and you need to do something about it on a spiritual level. And if you try to ignore it and just pretend like it's not there and keep doing the same thing, it's gonna hit you really hard. And I'm pretty sure, and this goes for a lot of people, that if you don't learn from it, it can even manifest as disease and other types of problems in your life that you cannot so easily get rid of anymore, or even accidents. So this is how the universe works. And so you have to be super smart on how you react to these things. And just taking Sadia Khan as an example, but this goes for pretty much everyone in life, because every one of us has a situation like that. It doesn't mean that that you're high profile and you get exposed like this, but there's tons of other situations. For example, you cheated on someone, or someone cheated on you, they got caught. There's tons and tons, or at work something happens. We all go through the situations in one way or another. So I don't think we should judge people too much. I think we should learn from each other in this regard. The problem is that most people are not very conscious and spiritual in life, so there's no teacher except people like me, maybe Sadhguru, who knows, Mooji, I don't know, some really knowledgeable, like spiritual, energetic teachers that really explain to you what's going on a kind of like a metaphysical, esoteric, or spiritual plane. Because you cannot deal with these things superficially. You cannot be like, oh, I'm just gonna, ignore it, or I'm just gonna, you have to really work on it on a kind of like, you have to understand the mechanics of life and really deal with it on that spiritual, energetic level. There's no other way. I mean, some people love to stay in their own prison and keep repeating the same mistakes. And this reminds me of what Eckhart Tolle calls the pain body. A lot of people also just want to stay and stick with the pain body and keep repeating the same mistakes because they're addicted to the pain body. And that's a choice. You literally make a conscious choice of whether you want to deal with the pain body or you want to be free from it. And that's a soul plan thing. Like the soul plan that you have will decide on whether you are really grow or whether you stick, basically, whether you stay in the same prison most of your life with the same problems, with the same issues. Um, yeah, so I think understanding what's happening and how you are and what's the ultimate or the absolute best way to react on it, and usually it's letting go, being able to completely let go of what's going on. For example, I give you one example. I was a tantra master, right, for 1,000 sessions. I did 1,000 sessions with women. I was a tantra master for women, and I came into a situation of a woman who was not even a client. All my clients were like super happy about, about the session. Like 99% of the clients were super happy about the session, and they had crazy great experiences and spiritual growth. And then I started to record some of the sessions into like ASMR stuff and recording some of that stuff. And I asked people to help me. I asked women to help me record it. And one woman, she actually fell asleep during the session, and because it was so relaxing, and she was not a client. She was just a model helping me record the session. And as she woke up, she was like, "Oh, this is absolutely not okay." And I said, "What is not okay?" Well, you did this and that. And I said, "I didn't do anything. You just fell asleep." And she was probably dreaming it or something. And the interesting thing was that I then recognized this, that that was a sign for me to stop doing that, to stop recording that. And it was very obvious that it was a hard thing to swallow, because I lived in that bubble that everybody is as nice as me and everybody has an open heart chakra like me and nobody wants to do you harm and stuff. And suddenly I learned that there's actually a person that wants to do me harm, and I understood it as a sign by the universe. And then I observed exactly what happened, and I recognized that there were like many points where the universe could have avoided the situation in a way, but it all kind of intersected in a kind of like a synchronistic way where I recognized, okay, this is trying to send me a message. And it was very hard to let go, because I always felt that being a tantra masseur was my calling, and I'm really good at what I do. And I felt that the universe is trying to tell me is, don't blow this up. Like, don't become worldwide known for doing this. Don't have like, millions of followers for showing your massages. Because I had one video which already had 6 million views, and with one of the sessions, and the girl looked a little bit like Kim Kardashian, and so people were watching that and commenting and so forth, and it really blew up. And so I just needed to follow that line and release one video after the other, and probably I would be worldwide known right now for doing these sessions. But I decided at that point, and I was already spiritually awakened, because the spiritual awakening is what led me to the massages in the first place. So, and the spiritual awakening allowed me to completely let go of it and be like, okay, if that's what the universe wants, I'm just going to let go of it. And just I let go of it completely. And I kind of like also saw it as an opportunity to see if I'm able to let go of truly everything, even that which I think is my purpose, being a healer for women. But then I let it go, and I was able to let it go for many years, and that was interesting to observe. And I always say, and the interesting thing is, I had many chances and many opportunities to go back into that work, and just, open a blog, start talking about it, and take my first clients. But interestingly enough, in the last like 10 years where I've not been doing it so much, I've been doing it organically when it arises on my travels or something like that. So maybe 4 or 5 times a year or something. And but I never felt I want to go back to how I was doing it before, like one session per day, or sometimes even 5 sessions per day, and one session is usually more than 2 hours. So I never felt, until this point, I never felt like I want to open up this blog again and restart the whole thing. So I did let it go completely, and if the universe wanted me to restart again, I would definitely feel this kind of channeling energy in which I would restart all of this. I've just had a tasty pizza from a local. Okay, enjoy your pizza. So basically, what I'm saying is that it's letting go is an extremely powerful tool, and just because you let go doesn't mean you can't restart something a little bit later. But you have to first let it go to take the full learning from the universe. And so I think Sadia Khan should, in her situation, I think she should completely let go, but make one video excusing herself, and then let the universe decide where her next goal is. I think it's going to be hard for her because I think she's addicted to the fame and the money. And if she's not spiritually awakened, obviously she's not, so that's going to make it very difficult for her. And the learning in this video is basically learn to let go completely and see where life takes you. And with that, I'm going to say good night.